Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another webinar hosted by Mithi Academy. So, Mithi Academy is Mithi's CSR initiative to help you with nearly everything you may need to excel at work. To know more about the Academy and about Mithi, please do visit us at mithi.com/academy. Today, we're going to talk about designing our careers. For this, we're very excited to have with us Dr. Ashok Korwar and Kalpana Korwar. Dr. Korwar has been a consultant to several companies and was previously a professor at IIM Ahmedabad and was the chairman of the MBA program. Kalpana Korwar is a designer and an architect who studied at CEPT and UCLA. Both of them are co-founders of the School of Design Thinking in Chennai. I'd also like to thank you all for joining us on a Saturday morning. As we go through the session, feel free to leave any questions you might have in the chat, and we'll try to answer as many as possible. Dr. Korwar and Mrs. Kalpana Korwar, welcome to this Mithi Academy webinar, and thank you so much for joining us today. I will now hand over this to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I hope you can all see me and so on. I'm now going to see. We are going to talk about design your career.
Well, design your career. What? I'm still little career and design. Do they go together? Somehow, I mean, like, when we were kids, people used to ask us, what would you like to be? And we used to say something, but it had no relevance maybe at that time. Very few people had that relevance. And even now, when somebody is asking, or you yourself are asking, okay, what do I want to be? And the journey goes on. And I mean, in some sense, we all design our days, or, in our own way. I mean, we are all designers, but then, planning our space, what feels good, what works well, everything goes on. But design career somehow takes me back to our childhood days. It's like designing your life yourself. Looks like a very wicked problem to me. A very wicked problem. So supposing if you look at this, it's like wherever. This is how I would feel if I have to design like my career or life.
Okay.
You can say it? Okay. So don't we feel this way? I mean, the graphics is just very clear, and maybe that's why we are here, to just ease out the situation.
See, the fact is that when you look at something like design your life, when you don't even understand what you mean by the question, it is actually the kind of question that is ideally suited for design thinking that we are promoting through the School of Design Thinking and so on, as Shrishti mentioned. So what is design thinking and why is it relevant? I'll just take a minute to go through that because we will be applying these principles. So here are some principles of design thinking that we think apply to this situation and to any situation where we have what is called a wicked problem. Wicked problem means a problem where you don't even understand what the question is. So the first principle of design thinking is to ask the right question. In this context, we would be saying, what do you mean by design your career? Do you mean design your first job? Do you mean figure out what is the first job I want to do? Or does it mean something else?
Yeah, I mean, exploration, just with an open mind. Just go on exploring, keep embracing the situation, keep growing, and I mean, the career will go on, perhaps.
And as usual, one of the principles of design thinking is don't fall in love with your first solution. Stay steeped in the question and the challenge. And above all, the most important principle of design thinking is empathetic observation. These are the principles of design thinking, and we will apply them here today.
And these are the ones that we feel relevant to the situation that we are addressing. Yeah.
So, of course, the first question that we have to answer is, whom are you supposed to observe? What are you supposed to observe? And here the answer is very obvious. We are talking about your career, right? If it's your career, your life, your whatever, the person to observe is yourself. So we have to begin this whole journey by understanding deeply yourself without any preconditions, without any preconceived notions. So for instance, someone may have told you that you are no good at this mathematical stuff, so don't do engineering, because without mathematics you can't do engineering. Or somebody may have told you you're no good at anything to do with the computer, so don't go into computer engineering or coding. Or somebody may have told you in school that or in college that you're no good at public speaking. If you're no good at public speaking, don't go into sales and marketing. The reality is that all these are somebody else's opinion about you, and they don't mean it.
Or many positive things also. People say, okay, you are good at drawing.
Right. Equally.
So
Yes.
that's it. You are set. You know, you join some design discipline, and that's it. But there are so many other things come with that discipline, which nobody talks about, and that's not something that you would even want to do. So.
So we have to start with observing oneself and understanding oneself. And what we are going to do in the next 10 minutes is show you some 2 or 3 tools or techniques that we think can be used, that we have used. And as we mentioned in the poster as well, everything that, or the structure of the course that we are talking about today is really based on a course that, a very successful course that is run at Stanford today. It has been the most successful course ever run at Stanford, really, in the sense of people signing up for it and getting value from it. And there are 2 or 3 things that the techniques that they have created are the ones we are going to talk about here. Obviously, and we have, of course, tried them out in several companies, in several of my consulting assignments, and they seem to have some value. So we thought we'll share them with you. So the first technique, actually, this is the technique, is to understand yourself in terms of 3 things. So let's talk about those 3 things first. You are, of course, at the center of this whole thing. That's me. You have to understand, number 1, what is your purpose in life? Sometimes people have a very strong purpose and sometimes they don't. But if you do have one, it is a good kind of guiding light for you to figure out what is it that you would like to do in your career, in your life, not in your first job, but in your career. And I think it's important to keep remembering that difference, because the first job could be anything. I remember when I started out, I'm a BTech from IIT Bombay, and then I went and did my PhD in management. My first job was as a professor somewhere. And the fact is that was only a first job. It isn't what I'm doing now. It isn't what I did for the next 20 years. It isn't what I really, it is just my first job. So your purpose has to guide you through your entire journey, through the entire career that you are going through. And by the way, you're welcome to put up questions and such in the chat window. We'll keep looking at it. So if you have any anything here, we will talk about that. So let me go back to the screen. Somehow it went off.
I think we'll also be talking about if we have a purpose and if we don't have. I mean, is purpose an ongoing thing?
Right. I mean, not everybody has a purpose, and that is okay. I think the important thing isn't that. The important thing really is to know yourself. And if you don't really have a very clear purpose, the purpose may evolve, which is fine. So that is something that can happen.
Any chat?
The screen share has gone off, Shishti.
So I can see your screen right now.
Oh, really? I can't see it.
No,
okay, fine. All right. Yeah, can you see the slide?
Yeah, we can see the slide and your video too.
You can see the slide?
Yeah.
Okay, because I can't see the slide at all. All right, I'll figure that out.
Okay, let's go on talking.
So there are 3 kind of aspects that one has to understand well here. One of them here is the purpose, like I said. Some of you may have a strong purpose, some of you may not have a strong purpose. You can figure that out. The other two things, and these are worth understanding in some detail. The first one is what gives you flow. Flow is that thing when you're working on something, you're completely into it, you're completely engrossed. Nothing bothers you. There could be an explosion outside your window, but you won't notice it, right? And those are the kinds of things where you're so much into it that you're completely magna, as we say, right, in whatever you're doing. If you're doing that, that is a good state to be in, because you're really in the present, you're in the flow, and that is the kind of thing that one should always look for. So one of the things to understand is what gives you this sense of flow. The second thing that, or the third thing really, is what gives you energy. Energy is something that is very essential for life. You have to feel energized at all times. Then only can you really feel comfortable and happy. So energy is something to look at. And when you look back on whatever you're doing or have done, you will notice that there are things which give you energy and some things which sap your energy, which drain your energy. For instance, I mean, the two are not related. You could be very much in flow in doing it, but after you do it, you're completely exhausted. That can happen, and it's important to know these things. We are not saying that one should not be drained. It can happen sometimes, but the important thing is to know yourself in these three dimensions. What is my purpose? What gives me flow? And what gives me energy? And these are the only three that are important. Observe the things that I'm not asking you. We are not asking you, what is your degree right now? What are you studying for? You may be studying engineering, and 20 years from now, you may become a salesperson. Or you may be studying liberal science, liberal arts today. And 20 years from now, you may become, somebody working on data and analytics in some software company. Because the fact is, they're not related to the work that you do. And this is something that most of you may find surprising. But it is a fact that the degree that you graduate with, and the work that you do in the long-term career that you are into, they're not related actually. Like I am a consultant, I'm a management consultant. My degree is in electrical engineering, and I'm not doing anything to do with electrical engineering today.
They may not be, right. But recognize that or understand that there may not be a relationship between the two. Other thing is about energy. While energy has many shades. So what you are looking at in terms of energy is more, it can be a quiet kind of energy. It can be, some people need a real energy. So whatever it is even getting drained out. If one can recognize that, how that is happening, that is good enough. It's not a process of elimination of those things either, because next day you will get energized.
So let me pause for a minute and see if people have any questions in terms of what are these things we're talking about: flow, energy, and purpose. I'm not asking you, first of all, like I said, what is your degree? I'm not even saying think about what are you good at. Because what you're good at could be a very thing which may be very specific to the given circumstance that you're in. And just because you're good at something doesn't mean you would want to do it for the rest of your life. We have to look at things that you would want to do all your life. And to do that, it is important to understand these three things: my purpose, my flow, and my energizers. So let me pause for a minute, see if people have any questions. If you have any, please put them up in the chat. We will try to respond to those, because it's important to kind of get a sense for these things. So we'll pause for a minute here. And if you have questions, you can put them up in the question window. Srishti will kind of monitor that.
So I had a question about energy. Yep. And you were talking about how sometimes it's good to get tired. So how do you know when, it's a good drain on your energy versus when it's, a bad drain on your energy? Because you mentioned that even
See,
when
always you
you're
can feel it. No, you can feel it. I mean, for instance, all of us today in this work from home world, we get onto a call or we do a meeting for 2 hours. At the end of it, we're completely drained, right? That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, but you should know that that happens to you. And therefore, you should organize your work life or your career so that you're not doing only that, because that will kill you. You can do it, but you have to, I mean, once you get drained, you have to go and get yourself a candy bar, right? I mean, that's a good thing to do, or a cup of coffee, as the case may be. So, important thing really is to be aware and not get into something that kills you. For instance, like I said, these meetings, I have for many years been a professional teacher, right? So I will go and run a class. I'll do a class, and once I do a class, I come back, I'm so drained, I don't even feel like talking to anybody. So if I do 10 classes like that, I'll die. And these are things to know, not to do.
Right.
Also, just adding something to that is like something that you need to reflect upon, not really react to it right away.
Right.
The moment you react to it, I mean, you get further drained out and you get convinced that this is a thing that is, that also is something that one needs to look at.
Right.
So let me move on. There's a small kind of illustration or application of this thing that we will be doing. So flow means what? When were you engaged, excited, focused, or not aware of time? You have a complete sense of involvement, great inner clarity, total calmness. You have the notion that time is standing still. A fulfilling work involves a lot of flow states. So you have to find that flow. And that flow could come from a lot of different activities. Like for instance, you could get this kind of feeling when you're reading, or when you're talking, or when you're giving a presentation. These are the kinds of things that you could be feeling, and those are things to observe as an input. We haven't yet got to the answer. We're just looking at understanding oneself right now, right? Positive and negative energy, like I said, we talked about that. And of course, there could be activities that engage you and also exhaust you. That can also happen. So I want to give everybody who is on the call a quick exercise just to try out these things. Think back over the last couple of weeks. Think of the few activities or projects that you are engaged in, say 2 or 3. It could be anything. It could be playing cricket. It could be playing video games. It could be anything. But look at these. Say take 1 or 2 activities. Don't take 4. You don't have time to do that. But take 2 activities that you've been involved in over the last couple of weeks, and rate the engagement that you were in. Think back and say, how engaged was I when I was doing it? How much flow did I have? Did I have flow plus minus? Tick mark. And what was my energy level afterwards? Not during it, but afterwards. So you take any 2 activities that you did, and I'll keep quiet for 5 minutes. Let you guys try it out, and we will see if it makes sense to you. It's an important activity, so I want you to all try it out. I'll give you 5 minutes to just write down 2 activities that you have been involved in over the last, say, several weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And for those 2 activities, just figure out what was your engagement level, what was your energy level afterwards. Okay? So 5 minutes. Okay? All right. Has anybody got anything to say? Did you try it out? Did it make any sense? Anybody would like to share in the chat window or otherwise? If you have anything, put up a hand, you get unmuted. Chat window will work if you want to say something. Hello, Shrishti, are you getting any questions or any comments that you
So we
can see?
have one question. So
Yeah.
Shishir is asking, energy may be evolved with time if we have good engagement and flow. Is that true? So if you have a good engagement and good flow, does your energy go up?
It often does, but sometimes it doesn't. Like I said, like when you're very much involved in some activities, sometimes when it's done, you can feel quite drained.
Right.
That can happen. So actually, they're unrelated in some ways. The best is if it happens. If both happen, then that is ideal. That is really the kind of thing you should strive to do, where you're in flow and you get energized. That's wonderful. So actually, that is the combination that you want.
Right.
But you have to be aware that it doesn't always happen.
So Srirang is asking, I know what not to do in my career, but I still want to figure out what I should do.
So these are the first steps. The first step is to figure out these 2 or 3 things. What gives me flow? What gives me energy? And do I have a purpose that drives my entire existence? If I have a purpose, then that can be a good indicator. And I'll just show you how to put them together. That's the next step. But these are the raw materials, so to speak, the ingredients by which you can start designing your career. What gives me flow? What gives me energy? And what is my purpose? If you have these 3 things, then you can start coming up with some options. So these are like the ingredients of menu, right? That you can make several dishes with. Yes, right.
Ingredients of a recipe.
For different recipes.
Yeah.
So these are ingredients. Yeah.
So there's another interesting question. So what Kshitij is asking is that when he's working on his own, he has a lot of energy and a lot of motivation, but his job drains him. But he still needs that job as a consistent source of income. So how do you balance the two?
No, that is true. And I think it is important to understand when we talk about, okay, something gives me flow. What is that something? Like he has rightly identified the fact that when he's working on his own, when nobody is disturbing him, he is in flow. What he doesn't like is somebody bothering him all the time when he's like his boss or his peers or somebody, right? So that already tells you something. It means that the kind of thing that you really should be doing is something where you can work on your own for a long period of time. And there are certain career options that let you do that. So you have to figure out if that's what gives you flow, that's what you should do.
Right. Yeah.
And again, when we talk about money and income and all that, these are things to consider. But the reality is that you can make a living doing practically anything, provided you do it well enough. If you are, let's say, a writer, you might think that, oh, writers don't make any money. But the fact is, some writers make a lot of money, the ones who are good at it. You might think that, let's say, professors, teachers don't make any money. They don't, but the good ones do make a lot of money. So it's not that there are certain things that you can never make money. For instance, my niece in the US, my sister's daughter, she's a poet. Now you might think, how do poets make money here, right? Poets are pretty difficult for a poet to make money. But the reality is, poetry is something that could be used in a movie. It is something that could be used in all kinds of things. And there are people who will pay for it. So if you're good at it, you can make money doing practically anything.
Right.
We haven't talked about some of these things.
Journey.
Yeah.
That's something that one needs to
Right.
accept.
And you have to stick to what you really want to do. You have to stick to what gives you flow. Eventually, money will come.
So Ahmed has done the exercise. Should I read out what he has written? So
Yeah, please.
he says he has listed 2 activities. One was facilitation, which he enjoys, and for that he gave it a 9 on engagement and energy. Then there was marketing, for which he gave 7 on engagement but 4 on energy. So he says that brings about the difference between being motivated to do something and doing something that is just energizing.
Right. Excellent. Yeah, very true. So again, what it means is, if you understand clearly why is it that you enjoy facilitation, it could be because you enjoy the dynamics of different people coming up with different points of view and different perspectives, and you enjoy playing them off against each other. You enjoy bringing out the best in them, which is what facilitation is about. And that is something that gives you both energy and flow. Whereas marketing is something that gives you flow, but not so much energy, because you get drained at the end of it. Now, maybe what one needs to look at is, how do you combine the two? Can you come up with a career that combines marketing with facilitation? And those are the kinds of things to think about. Okay, let me move on. I think.
Yeah.
I'll just turn off my webcam so that you can now see my screen. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just move on. We don't have enough time to go through it in every case, but we need to kind of. Okay. Purpose is the other ingredient that we didn't talk about. Again, purpose is something that some people have, some people don't have, and at many people, their purpose sort of becomes clear to them at some other point in life, later on in life. Some experience you go through which makes you realize, okay, this is what God put me on this earth for. Now, to some people it never happens. To some people it happens very early in life. Some people it happens later on in life. But the reality is that some people are driven by a very strong purpose. And if you have that sense of purpose, it can be a very good guide. I'll just give you some sample purposes that people have. Oprah Winfrey talks about, I want to be a teacher, to be known for inspiring my students to be more than they think. Richard Branson very plainly says, have fun and learn from my mistakes. So there are all these people who have created purpose statements, and that purpose statement guides whatever they do. So important to, if you have a purpose, to figure out what it is and construct this kind of purpose statement, just to kind of keep as a guide to yourself.
And just add something to whatever he's saying. The purpose need not be a very specific purpose. Yeah. You know, I mean, like in the second category, or there where this Richard Branson says that I just the purpose is to have fun. I mean, now how do you define fun? I mean, it's like often we think of purpose is which is very specific. It need not be. And as you go along, another group of people also feel that you can just embrace whatever is coming along, and that comes the to get
Your
to know
voice
yourself.
is breaking just a little bit. Could you repeat that?
Okay, so what you're saying is,
a purpose that you can define. It may not be a definable purpose. It can be a not a very specific purpose or a very tangible purpose. It can be a very intangible purpose, and that forms kind of a pathway or a web for you to operate in. And then once that is clear to you, okay, this is what I want to do, like have fun, basically. That's my purpose. Just meet people. That is my purpose. So meeting people, there are so many different ways in which you can do that. And that can again bring about a sense of purpose in life, not necessarily purpose. And that is good enough.
okay, so how do you put all these things together? The tool that we recommend and that we teach people to use is this tool called the mind map. The mind map is basically, some of you may know quite well what it is, but it combines some of the left brain and right brain activities where you use concepts and words and you draw them on paper so that you can look at them and then connect them. See, what happens is when you put down different things together on a piece of paper without actually connecting them very clearly, your mind connects them, and it connects them in a way which your logical mind may not be able to do, but your unconscious, your subconscious is able to do it, because this is a visual technique. So we believe a lot in these visual techniques because they appeal to the unconscious, not to your logical mind.
Mind map should be done not with 6H pencil. It should be done with either a charcoal or a crayon or something which gives you a fluidity in your expression of your the mindscape. So
I'll give you an example of a mind map that I just made up based on what some people I have heard talking about these things. So here is somebody who could be one of you typically, and the kinds of things you start with me at the center, then you put down your purpose, and this person that this hypothetical person that I'm talking about, he or she has this purpose in life to conserve the environment so that everyone can live healthy. He's very passionate about that. If that is so, then your career should be around that. I mean, why do something else if that is your purpose in life? What is this thing that gives this person flow is solving difficult problems. Whenever he is solving difficult problems, she is feeling very good. She is feeling in the flow. She's very engaged. So this is a typical observation of this person. What gives her energy is arguing with difficult people, winning arguments with difficult people. And sometimes when she does this and she wins that argument, she's very energized. She's saying, wow, great job, what I did. So if you look at these three things, your purpose, energizer, and flow, you can get some options out of this, right? Like for instance, if you're very good at arguing, you enjoy arguing, you love to argue, maybe you should think about a career as a lawyer, or a career with arguing with government officials, because they're very difficult people to argue with, or a negotiator. Or you should think about maybe even journal editors are very difficult people to argue with, and winning arguments with them is a very big deal. Similarly, if you're thinking of solving difficult problems exist everywhere. You can think about working in a research lab. You could think about being a consultant. You could think about academics. You can think about all these as things that each of these boxes suggest. Then what you do is you put all these, you just stare at these things and say, what does it suggest? How do I combine these things together into some options that suggest a career? And in the green box, I've just come up with options that to me are suggested by these findings. For instance, one can become a lawyer, one can become a professor, one can become a consultant, one can even become a landscape designer. Because for instance, if your passion is to conserve the environment, then maybe you should be looking at plants and trees and natural organics.
Yeah, and when anthropology, for example, some
Right.
people are, just or geology, if one is interested in.
So these kinds of things can suggest to you 2 or 3 options that one can explore. So what this methodology suggests is you construct this mind map, you stare at it, you let it tell you whatever it wants to tell you, and from that you allow your mind to construct options which put all these things together, which are not obvious by looking at any one of them. For instance, I know a person, my brother-in-law, actually Kalpana's brother, who is actually most of his career consists of being an expert witness in difficult plastics engineering cases. This is what he likes to do. He likes to argue. It gives him energy. He's an expert on this thing called plastics, and the things that he does give him that sense of purpose, that he's helping people use this material better. These are the kinds of things that can give you a career option. Now that they won't flow by any one of them, but if you look at all of them and allow them to speak to you without your trying to impose a solution, without your trying to impose an answer, you can get a sense of several different options that you could do if you wanted to. So this is how we put together these ingredients to come up with some options.
So shall we start now?
Let's start the journey. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you have these 3 or 4 options, we call them 3 right now. List 3 jobs, organizations, or industries that you are interested in. But the most important thing along the journey or before you start the journey is explore your own curiosity. So in design thinking, that is what we consider very important ingredient. And find out whether you are curious about, out of say 6 areas, look at 3 areas, and but get in touch with your curiosity.
And don't stick with one, because if you start with one, you'll get stuck. So don't do one, do 3. 3 because it gives you enough options, and at the same time it's manageable. So don't do 6. 6 is not manageable. But don't do 1, don't do 6, do something in between. 3 is a good number. That seems to work.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So is it a sequential thing?
No.
I mean, like you do one at one point, then do another. Or I mean, it can parallelly go on.
All go in parallel.
No, because I would think that way. That it something it would, I would be thinking about it in my mind. Mind being the it's so fluid that you can work around here and there and still keep it in your, and may introduce many changes, bring about other kinds of curiosities as well.
Yeah.
So
I agree, should be in parallel.
All right. And then once you know that, kind of have a fairly good idea, you just take a plunge. Just jump in, put yourself into your chosen activities and see your world and within you and around you, from the outside and in the inside, everywhere from different angles, and just be that activity for a while. You can see how the guy is going through. First he's just looking at it, staring, and then he's like he's still with it, so he goes, and there are many other things come in, but finally he's part of that activity that he has. Then look into, obviously you want to find out whom you know in this field, identify them, who know that they are doing the kind of thing that you like to do. Write down their names, even if you have to, to whatever extent you need to get to. These days you don't need to talk about that. You guys are all expert at that. Figure out how to reach them, and then write them down. They say, remember, anyone can reach anything in 6 steps. Anyone, anything. I don't understand that so much, but okay. So then next is, of course, talking to them, not in terms of like just asking straight questions, but just meet them over a cup of tea or coffee, just discuss general things and get a sense of it. I think that's a better way to just get something out of them, observe what they do, spend some time with them at different times, different situations. And
like for instance, sometimes I used to think that I would like to be an archaeologist, because it is so exciting to discover, a tomb of Tutankhamen or something. But the reality is, if you go talk to an archaeologist, you will find that they spend 90% of their day with a small brush cleaning some part of a dig, some part of a little stone, and they spend most of them spend most of their life finding nothing. Is that something I'm comfortable doing? I decided I was not, so that's why I'm not an archaeologist. But those are the kinds of things to figure out as to what is your life really like. Not the glamorous view of it, but to go and see what it is really like, and that you can only do when you observe them and when you talk to them.
It's not that is what you will be doing, but so have a variety of people involved in that kind of activity. There are exceptions to those as well. So look into that. Yeah. And then, as we were saying, this whole process of finding or getting in touch with yourself and what you want to do, the whole thing is a very spherical, or a movement is very spiral or cyclical, and it's ever expanding. It comes back, expands. So don't think that it is like step 1 finished, step 2, 6 steps hai, lekin they are all very much integrated. And
step 6, you have to go back to
go back
1.
to, so it is kind of spiraling, and it is more spherical also, that keeps expanding in many ways. So keep it in mind. And then
you move on, you start focusing on one of these three, because then you have to sooner or later decide on something. But only after you have explored three of them to some extent. And then most important,
try it out and see, just first by touching little bit, sensing with all other senses as well. We are especially, we have chosen the water. So there are many things that you need to feel, but keep on trying it out. Be open to that phase.
so what we mean by try it out is, for instance, there are many internship opportunities. There are many opportunities to do something on the side. For instance, if you decide that you want to become, you're very passionate about conservation and you want to go work in an NGO, try it out. Go volunteer for that NGO for a while and see if you really like it or not. Because in reality, you will find that things are very different than what you imagine. Many people talk to me saying, oh, I would love to teach because there must be so much to teach. And I always say, try it out and see. Then you'll find out how much fun it is. These are things that you won't know until you try it out, but try them out. So don't jump from the airplane without a parachute. Try them out. And only when you're comfortable that you are happy doing this, then think about doing it actually. So there are two kind of caveats that we want to really end with. We have about 3 minutes to go before we stop for questions. And these are important to remember. Like for instance, today we sit and think that I want to become a computer scientist doing coding in Java. Remember, 20 years from now, Java may not exist. 20 years from now, the job of coder may not exist because things are changing. It's a moving target. The cheetah is running after the deer, but the deer is also running. And what we have to recognize is that all the jobs we think about today may not exist 20 years from now. There may be something else altogether. For instance, how many of us thought 20 years ago that you could make a living as a YouTube, making YouTube videos? But it's possible today, right? These are things that we never imagined, but they are happening. So always remember that what is there today may not be there 20 years from now. And you should not get stuck doing something that is not going to be there. So remembering that this is a moving target is important.
What do you want to be when you grow up? That people ask usually when you are kids. We talked about it earlier. And it's like, does the caterpillar know? We don't know whether it's going to become a butterfly, but it keeps growing. The situations, I mean, he is there, but the situation is changing, and there is always a struggle between the two, and how we coordinate.
So the two things are changing. One is the target is changing and you are also changing. So the deer is also changing and the cheetah is also changing. And that is the essence of the situation where you're in. You are changing, the kinds of targets you're chasing are also changing. But it is important to follow your heart.
So you begin kind of walking on that path with I would say it's like you are clear about it now that things are changing. The situation is changing. So we need to have that spirit first within us that this is all going to happen. Can you plan too long, in advance? What is going to happen 20 years from now? Can you plan and choose a career now? I don't think so. It's like when you get to that point, something else will be there. But whatever you are doing, whatever you've chosen right now, is to overwork on that either, because this is like a very small, thin chapter of your life. It's just for a certain span, and then you will evolve. It will take you somewhere. And so just follow your heart. The most important thing is to follow your heart.
I just end with a short story of there's a professor called Howard Raifa at Columbia who created this model called decision, how to make decisions. So you take all the parameters that affect the decision, you give them a weight, then you give a score to every possible decision and see which path has the highest score. And he created this model. So one day what happened, he got a job offer from Harvard to go and teach at Harvard instead of Columbia. Now Harvard is supposed to be a very desirable job, so he thought about it. As soon as Columbia came to know, they tripled his salary. So now he didn't know what to do. Stay at Columbia with triple the salary or go to Harvard. And this is the joke. He went and spoke to a friend of his, and his friend said, you created this wonderful matrix and model. Why don't you apply it? And Raifa said, what he said? He said, you don't understand. This is an important decision. You cannot apply more decisions. To important decisions, you can only follow your heart. Therefore, that is the thing that we want to end with. And I'll turn it over back to Shrishti.
Fine, yeah.
And see if anyone has questions, comments, anything like that. We can take the next 10 minutes to respond to this.
Yeah, that was a really nice story. I really like that one. So we have one comment from Suyog. So he's talking about how many times in his office, so he works as a credit appraiser. So it exhausts him so much that it drives him away from things he likes, like writing and storytelling. So he doesn't find the time to, do that, or the motivation. So I think the question here would be about your career versus your hobbies and how to balance that, and that whole dynamic in itself.
No, I think the reality is you have to do all those things. If you really love doing them, if they give you meaning in life, you should do them. Do them on the side if necessary, but do them. Don't not do them. I think it's important to keep doing the things that give you energy, give you flow, because they give you that joy in life. So you can do it along with the career, and then gradually over time, you may be able to make that your career. It depends on, you need a little bit of luck, you need some opportunities, but if you don't do them at all, you'll never get those opportunities. So one should keep doing them on the side. So say, for instance, you enjoy writing, keep writing. Somebody may notice what you wrote and then offer you a job as a writer or to do whatever it is that you want to do. And those are the kinds of things that you have to keep doing. Otherwise, you'll never get those opportunities either. One should do that.
Yeah. So Arvind has a question for us. He's saying, can I take up a career after my initial work experience of 25 years? So he worked as a journalist for 6 years, and for the last 19 years, he's been working as an IT sales personnel.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's saying he didn't have a choice.
Again,
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. Now, my own feeling is, look, I know a lot of IT salespeople. And the reality that one of the very important elements of sales is telling a story. In fact, now we are trying to teach people how do you tell the story. And as a journalist, you would know how to do that. So maybe one of the things you should consider doing is teach all your colleagues how to tell stories. That's very important in sales. So one can grow from there, doing the thing that you love doing, but as part of your job.
And also integrating it.
Yeah,
somehow, is it possible to bring it to your work in some form instead of doing it independently?
I am running programs today, teaching salespeople how to tell stories. And if he's already good at doing that, he should do.
That's interesting because he's saying he likes teaching and consulting.
Yep. And do it. No, one should do it. After 25 years of experience, you definitely have the credibility to do it. Life will be difficult at first, but eventually things will work out. It takes a little time, but things work out. Try it out. Try it out. Try it out in a small way. Don't quit your job now. Try it out in a small way. See if you can help somebody. See if people are listening to you. See if your advice makes sense. See if you're able to relate to it. Then, if it feels good, then jump. But don't jump right away. So that is our general advice to people. Try it out in a small way until you feel comfortable doing something. Then do it. But don't jump from the plane without a parachute.
So I had another question regarding the story you told about you wanting to be an archaeologist, and you realize that what they actually do is quite different from what you thought they did. So what I think is,
Right.
when we're starting out, we have a lot of preconceived notions about what things are, especially if you think about careers like engineering, where, you know, people sort of assume that nobody really likes it and they just do it because they have to. Or even when I went to
Right.
study design, what I thought was I would also have to be an artist to be a designer. So when you start out, you're very wrong about, you could be quite wrong about what it actually takes. So how do you sort of,
Yeah, you may.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you navigate
Yeah.
that?
So
And how
you
do you
feel
know?
about it. Uh-huh. Okay. Two things. I mean, if you feel that at this point that what you did, the path that you chose was definitely not the right path, because that's not what you want to do. But when you reflect upon it, the journey that you had gone through, that has made you think like this right now. It's not what you did, but it made you, and that thinking can really take you. I mean, many skills you picked up on your way, and it doesn't matter. It's definitely, it has stimulated many other things in yourself, and that can take you beyond to what you are doing. So I personally feel it doesn't matter whether you know. I mean, you enter the field, you realize this is not what you want to. If you're very, the feeling is very strong, then you can quit right then and take up something else. But
See, the reality is the career is in your hands. It is a piece of clay. You can mold it to do whatever you want. And you can mold it any way you want. So you can do little bit of this, little bit of that, and that's you. It can be done. People don't realize that there's lots of malleability in this thing. Everybody who is a computer engineer doesn't do exact same thing. Different computer engineers do different things depending on what they're good at, what they enjoy doing, and what they're getting paid to do. So for instance, a computer engineer today may do a lot of design of user experience, which gives you the ability to think about yourself as a designer. Or a computer engineer might take very, very difficult technical problems and work on them, which gives you a sense of satisfaction as really a hardcore problem solver. So same computer engineer can do many different things, because it's up to you to figure out what you want to do. And all these options exist. They exist all the time. You have to understand yourself, know what you love doing, know what gives you energy, what gives you flow, and what is your purpose in life. If you put those things together, you can use them as lodestones, or for whatever you want to do.
also, Shrishti, you talked about having a preconditioned mind or notions. That happens. One has to get out of that over a period of time. It doesn't happen. You have to train yourself to observe, step out, of that notion, and keep observing. That is another session that we do. How do you keep observing all your life, and then you
keep questioning.
Keep questioning, and that gets internalized. I mean, I had a notion about I engineer from IIT, and that was a preconceived notion. And over a period of time, I found out there are all kinds. Yeah, they're all not like that. There are all kinds of engineers, and so.
When I first met her, she's an architect. I thought they're like civil engineers. Then she said, you know what, architecture is a language. I said, what? I never heard of such a concept before. And then it made me think that it's something different. That you have this preconceived notion. It's not true at all.
Yeah. And I think
okay. Any one last question?
That you also talked about trying things out, so you can know for yourself before you jump in completely. So I think that would help too with whatever ideas you have.
Yes.
Beforehand.
Right.
Yeah. So we have one last question.
Those are important.
Yeah. So one last question. So Vivek he's not very sure that following your heart is the best way to make decisions in life, because it could be pretty scary, I guess, to just go based on your intuition. So what advice do you have for that?
No, on the contrary, I think if you don't follow your heart, you'll always go back and question your own decision. you'll always have this thing they call buyer's remorse, where you said, did I make the right decision? Maybe I shouldn't have done that. Whereas if you followed your heart, you won't have that feeling. So
Right.
actually, in fact, the best way to be comfortable with your decision is to follow your heart. If you do a matrix and you put numbers like the RIFA model, you will always wonder, did I give it the right weightage or should I go and change that weightage? And then there's no end to it because there was no reason for that weightage in the first place.
Right. Okay, that's good advice. Okay, so I
Okay.
think we can close this right now.
Yeah.
So those
Good. Thank
are all
you.
the questions. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you everybody for your questions and your time.
Okay. Thank you all.
Good.